So I want to welcome everyone to your first class of the Macrame 101 course that we're going to have. This course is going to be 4 classes, and it's going to be every week, and it's going to be every Wednesday here on TikTok. It's going to be every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time live. It will also be available after the fact in our YouTube channel that is Zulibeya Handmade Creations. So that is where you can find the recording. We're going to introduce you to macrame. Now, for all of you that have a notion of macrame, you guys have always seen the wall decorations, the bigger type of macrame projects that is used with the thicker cord, the cotton cord. We're going to concentrate on macrame, the art of macrame in our bracelets. What we can do with our macrame cord or macrame techniques with bracelets. As you can see, there's different designs that you can do. And it consists of basic knots, where today I'm going to introduce you to the type of materials that are available that you can use, the difference between them. I'm going to introduce you also to the kind of equipment, tools that you might need. It's a very if you are doing this to start a business, it is something that does not require a lot of money in spending on materials. So this makes a very nice way to add to your, small business, or, dedicate yourself to doing some of these for friends and family. But definitely a great idea to start doing the macrame. Okay. Now, to start macrame, the macrame is a knotting technique, for those that don't know, for making. It's used to use a lot of like ornaments, textiles, maybe some artisanal stuff, but it also applies to jewelry. So it is very different. It is very different to what we can do with it in jewelry, and what we can do with it on wall art or on home decor. Okay, so here are the different types of strings that I recommend, or that you can use and that you might like. The only one I don't have to show today is a waxed cord. Okay, but wax cord is a very popular cord a lot of people use. There are different types. I like using nylon cord. The knotty nylon cord, I use 0.8 millimeter. Okay, I used a 0.8 millimeter nylon cord. These are very affordable. You can find them anywhere. Just look up nylon cord. Okay. I am not able to do brands or names of where I got these. So you can go ahead and research nylon cord 0.8 millimeters, and you're able to find a variety of colors. And this is nylon cord, okay? You can also use, and that's another one I like to use, is the size 0.5 millimeter. Now, 0.5 is thinner. In gauges on nylon cord, the higher the number, the thicker the cord is. The smaller is thinner. Okay, so this one here is 0.5 millimeters. This one, I like it for more daintier options. And you will see on some of the bracelets that you'll see during this course, you will see the difference. Okay, so my recommendation for beginners is to use a 0.8 millimeter or a 1 millimeter. Okay, you can use a 1 millimeter. They go up to 2 millimeters. I mean, they get, if you're doing the home decor stuff, they can get up to like 3 and 4s and like thicker. Okay, so for the bracelets, I love to use one that is combined with polyester. This one is softer. And this one is 0.8 as well. But if you see the difference, this one is a lot more rigid than this one. Okay, this is softer. I really love the feel of the one that has a blend of polyester. Okay, and this is my favorite one. So if you look for one, and here on TikTok, they can let you know where I got this one. Okay, and there is also the textured one, the braided one. Okay, braided one is thicker. As you can see, this gives it a different look, and I'll be showing you some samples of how using different cords and sizes even changes the look of your bracelet. Okay, so if you look at this is the twisted texture to it. You see that? That's beautiful. It's very soft. This is a cotton one, and this one, actually no, it's a nylon one. I'm sorry, nylon. And this one is thicker. This one, I believe, is a 1.5. Okay, so it makes really, really beautiful beautiful bracelets with that one. And then you have the satin one. The only one I don't have is the waxed one. And then there's the satin one. Do you see the satin one? This one can go up to 2.5. It's a little thicker. This will give you a very thick macrame bracelet. Okay, so you have options when you start. Now, if you want to start to learn how to do this, like we're doing now, is the best thing to do is to use or start with a 0.8 millimeter or a 1 millimeter if you are a beginner. This will get you more comfortable with making the knots before you try anything smaller. Okay, anything smaller. Even doing it with a 2 millimeter would be a good thing. As long as you don't do the very small, very thin ones. Okay. All right. Now for your tools and what you're going to need is really important. You are going to need some scissors. Okay. You are going to need some scissors. You are going to need a measuring tape. This is really important to have. Very, very important. Measuring tape is important. Another thing that you need, and absolutely for our TikTok friends, this is a light device that will help you melt the ends. Okay, if someone can put in the TikTok chat what this means. So you're going to need one of these devices. It's really important because we have to seal our nylon cord when we use it. Okay, It's really important. Now, in regards to what you're going to use as your base, where you're going to put your cord, you can do many options, okay? You can go as basic as doing one of these macrame. This one's actually a blocking board for crochet. So if you crochet, you know what these are. But there are macrame boards that are in the same material, this foamy material. And you can use that as your macrame board. You can use an actual macrame bracelet board that they have like this. This is the one that I started my macrame on. Okay, something like this. You can have one of these. This has an area where you can put your clips. Definitely need some clips. These I really, really like. Make sure they go on the board. But if you buy a board, they have these clips already. Some of them have clips. Also, you can make your own. My husband made this one for me. Get creative. My husband made this one for me, and it works wonderfully. He made it where it's slanted. So if you can see the higher point, and then it kind of comes in an angle, so that when I'm doing my macrame, it's going to go this way and I can see it. Okay? So once you have your materials ready, all of the stuff that you have, then you are ready to begin learning how to make your macrame. Remember how I said different sizes of the cord make different looks on the bracelet. So if you can see this one and this one over here, these are the same material. They're this one's here, right? So as you can see, the knots are a little thicker. So you get a thicker bracelet when you do this here, okay? This size right there will give you a very different look. As well as your 2mm satin, like the one I showed here. Let me show you what that looks like. So it's a thicker, very shiny. That's what that looks like. And if you want something daintier, like this is very dainty, and I had to use double, but do you see that thinness of it right there? That's the dainty one. So this would be your 0.5 size. And you see the knots there, and then the knots here. So this is a little more daintier because you use the 0.5. Gives it a very, very different one. And this is the regular nylon cord. Do you see this? Nylon cord. This is the like average size that you guys will get to see more often in people's creations. Okay, the most recommended, standard, mostly used. And the cords also come in variegated colors. So that way you guys can choose how to do. Along the course in another class, I will be teaching also how to combine with 2 strands, different colors, and create things like this. So today we're concentrating on learning what is the basic construction of the macrame, the starting of the mostly used knot you will use on a macrame bracelet, which is the square knot. You learn how to make this knot and you can create all of your bracelets, including one like this, and including things like this, like that, or even one as simple as just having one centerpiece, but they're all the same knot. So if you can see, all of these have the same knot, and it's going to be the knot that you use mostly for your slider, the slider that goes right here. Okay, so learning how to make your basic square knot is going to get you on the road to making your own beautiful designs. Okay, so now we're going to move on to how to prepare yourself to actually start doing your bracelet, your macrame bracelet, and how to get the sizing. We're going to talk about what the bead size is going to be, what the kind of string you're going to use, all those recommendations. Now remember, this is a recommendation based on what I have experienced with my macrame bracelet journey. Okay, it can work for you as it works for me, but that's why I'm trying to introduce you to something that then later you can adjust to what you want, okay, and what you need. When it comes to determining the size of how much string you're gonna get, let me tell you, I always tell everybody, I tell everyone I teach, I waste a lot of string, okay? I do waste a lot of string. But I also want to let you know that you will never use the same amount on all of your bracelets, because you're not all going to do the same length. You're not going to do the same design. Some designs take more string than others. Okay, make sure you remember that. The size is approximately what works for me and how I determine my size. And I do have a lot of cord left over after my projects, because I want to have leftover instead of, having to need some more. So what I do is, depending on what I'm going to use, I'm going to use my board. And what I like to do is, regardless of how big my bracelet is going to be, I always put my length of my cord, I make it go all the way down to the bottom of the one side, and then all the way to the bottom of the other side. Okay, I will go this way. That is how much I use for my base string. Each bracelet that you make macrame, you're going to have a base or a foundation. Okay, in the base or the foundation, this is where we're going to either add our beads, add our knots are going to go on there. Okay, so in our basic square knot bracelet that you're going to learn how to make, I'm going to do this. So if you want to have an approximate size of how much it is, I'm going to go ahead and show you. So if you pre-measure that, meaning put it over your board, I'm going to tell you how much my length was. My string was approximately 21 inches. Okay, this size has always helped for me. Usually what you want to do is you want to make sure it goes over the hand, right? Over the hand. And then there's enough here because you want to add a slider and you want to add beads. But I always leave extra at the ends, because when you do a bracelet and you want to do these little beads that hang on your bracelet, you want to have some enough length so that it can adjust. And also, because we do use the lighting device to melt it, we sometimes tend to melt, and it becomes shorter and shorter and shorter. So we want to have enough left over, okay? So that is what approximately my base string is going to be. If you are using a 0.8 millimeter cord and you want to put some beads on it, I recommend that you do 8 millimeter beads or 6 millimeter beads or smaller. Okay. I have used 10 mm. I dislike the way it's too heavy on my string, and some of the 10 mm's sometimes have a very small opening. So I don't use 10 mm beads that often because of that. And I like the way my macrame bracelets look with 8 millimeter or 6 millimeter. Okay, these are 6 and these are 8. And it's going to help with fitting through the bead. Remember, this is 0.8 millimeter. Your average opening of a bead is sometimes 1 millimeter or 0.8 millimeter, depending. So you want to make sure that your string is thin enough to fit. That's why it's important to know that when you buy your string, you are looking at the millimeter part of your cord. Okay, when you shop. So 0.8 is the recommended, and you can use 8 millimeter beads. The smaller your cord is, this one's 0.5. This I've used seed beads before. This I can do seed beads, 4 mm's, 5, 6. I mean, I can do, but these are for smaller beads. So this gives you a daintier, very pretty daintier bracelet. Okay. For these that are the thickest, if you're going to use this kind, the only bead that would fit is if it had the opening. So in this case, I used this one. I did a twisted design. Okay. We're going to be learning this during our course in the next couple of weeks. But if you see here, do you see that opening, how big that is? I believe this opening that this bead has is like 4 millimeter. 4 millimeter. And this is a 2 or 2.5. So yes, it was going to fit through this right here. Okay. So the same goes with the ends. I had to get, usually ceramic beads work really nice. This is a very big opening, but I was able to fit 2 of the strings through it so that I can do the hanging bead. Okay. So it depends on your string, what bead size you are going to need. And if you're using double as well, make sure that you realize that if you double this up, this now became like almost a 1.5 millimeter, because if you double up, some people like to double up, make it sturdier. If you're gonna double up, I would use a thinner one, 0.7. There is 0.6 as well. So that is with the beads. So the beads that you put on here will depend on the size of your cord. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Let's go ahead and go on to the next part. So now that you have your base cord or your foundation, we're going to go ahead and put it on your board. Now, you can use, like I said, the boards that we mentioned previously. And let me show you, if you have one of these that are designed for your bracelet, macrame bracelet boards, they come with clips, and it has one over here. So you would hold your end here, making sure that the end goes all the way to the bottom, and then coming on this side to hold it. It has to be really well. There has to be a tension, okay? There has to be a tension where it doesn't move, because if it's like this, like you know, like very, very loose, you're not going to have the stability, and your knots are not going to be nice and have the same tension. Okay, so you want to make sure you put it on and it's nice and sturdy. Okay, this is if you're using one of these boards. Now, you can also use, I forgot to mention in the beginning, that you can also use a clipboard. I don't have a clipboard with me, but the same goes with these. It's another different kind of device that can hold your string. You just put it here. The reason I don't use these, try and find something that's lower, something that doesn't have a container, because this will get on my knuckles. They will hit it. But some people can use it. I just have big fingers. It wasn't meant for me, and it wobbles a lot. But this is a one that a lot of people have. So the same thing applies. You just put your clip on the side here and on the other side. If you're going to use your board, a clipboard, this is what I suggest. Is you make sure you can either clip it or tape it, whatever it is that you want to do on one end. But make sure that if you tape it, this is stable. You can do it on your table as well. And then you're going to do that to the other side. To the other side. And what I recommend, because you have to get underneath, the string, is you can put a marker or a pencil or something here that is thick. I would do like a marker or your, mascara or something like that, just to lift it. So I'm just going to use this as an example. So you can lift it. So it has to be something thinner over here so you can lift it. So you have room here to work with. You can do macrame bracelets like that. You don't need none of these if you don't have any, but you can create your own thing. And you can use a clipboard as well, the clipping part, and then hold it. But make sure you there's even those wooden dowels that you can put here like this. So you can lift up so that you're knotting. You can put it underneath your string. Okay? Do you guys have any questions in regards to this section on how to do it in? Even on your table, you guys can tape it. But do you guys have any questions while I pick up my scissors? Tape both ends. Yes, beauty. So your tension has to be really good. So it has to be very secure. Make sure you're using a tape that is going to hold it down. And yes, you would have to make sure that if you're using a regular table, that you are either taping it well, close, and that the tension on the other side as well. But make sure, remember to put that thing that's going to lift it, because making your knots is going to be difficult if you don't have that space underneath the string to do it. Okay? So it has to be something lifting it. So you can tape it and then just put something there. Okay. The thicker one, the bigger one, my husband made for me. And the other one I got, I think, at the Zon. But this is custom made for me from my husband. Okay. Any more questions? Oh, and these, for you guys here on TikTok, I got these at the Zon. I got a pack of them. I believe these are the 2-inch. 2-inch. Yeah, 2-inch clips. I love these. These are very good and very strong. So they hold very good. And they're the perfect size for any of these boards. Okay? Sounds good? I'm going to prepare this before starting to record. So I'm putting this on here. I'm going to hold this really well there and hold it over here. Okay? Remember I said it has to be nice and sturdy. I said that already. Okay. So no more questions. We're going to keep going, okay? So now that we have our base on our board, we have our cord we're going to start, and we have it clipped. For this particular course, we are going to do only the knotting technique, okay? As soon as we learn that one, the next step would be to show you how to include beads into your design, okay? So we're going to concentrate on a regular, basic knotting bracelet, and I will show you how to add that bead. So we're going to now need to cut our working string. Okay, remember how we call this the base or the foundation? Now we're going to determine how much of your working string you would need. Well, you know what? I don't have a specific number. And I know that a lot of people are really, it's really important for them to know, like, how much exactly, like, what do I need? How much of this I need? Well, because we're learning, you're learning, you're going to learn that you might need more for certain designs. For the very basic design or beginning bracelet, first beginning bracelet, we're going to measure this working, and your working doesn't have to be the same color, okay? Your working can be a whole different color. But we're going to use the same color so that you can see. And what I'm going to do wingspan. Okay, so I'm going to actually put this all the way out as far as my arms can reach. I know a lot of us have longer arms, so a lot of us have shorter arms. So you guys, if you have too long of arms, then do like maybe 1.5 of that. So I mean, half of it. But you're going to take this amount, and once you have that, you're going to look at it and go, it's going to be too much. Oh my gosh. It's okay. So what you're going to do now, we're going to fold it in half. Okay, I cut. Now let me tell you what you can do here. That way you can determine how much of the string you're going to need for future projects. If you're going to do a bracelet that is similar, or you're going to do the same thing. Always measure out like your wingspan, right? I always do that. There's some people that say do this amount times 3, or, you know. I've tried it, but believe me, this time, I'm telling you, if you figure out what you're going to need for each project, do it this way. So if you do one, some people do it from the middle of the chest all the way out to the end of their arm, you know, one of their arms. I do it both, like if I'm like extending my arms out. So my string measures a lot. I'm going to measure it while it's folded in half. So my string is going to be approximately about 29 inches when it's folded in half. Okay? Folded in half is going to be 29 inches. So you would just multiply that by 2. Okay? You will multiply that by 2. That is the total length of your string. And we're going to start with working with it. After we are done, you can then, after we cut off the excess, then we can measure how much we cut off, and then you can say, oh, if you cut off 10 inches worth of string, that means that you in reality only needed 10 inches less than what you had. Okay? That's important so that in your next project, you have an idea of how much string or cord you used. So for here, I have 29 inches, okay, which is 58 inches in total because it's folded in half. So if I cut at the end everything that's left over and I measure that material, then I'll know that I went over either whatever amount is left over. And that way, my next project, I know to use less those inches off my cord. And that's how you kind of can determine how much you need for each of it. It's about experimenting with your cord because your design might need more cord. So have certain things, like if you're going to do one specific style and you want to do them in all different colors, then that way it's easier. You do what I did, measure out that way, and then when you're done, you cut it off, and that's what you measure. And then you go, okay, if I want to make this specific bracelet, I'm only going to need this amount of string. But always leave yourself extra room because of the fact that we have to melt the ends off, and sometimes it might, you might need more. So we're going to now start the knotting process. Don't worry about how long you're going to do it, what the measurement's going to be. I'm going to cover that. I've got you. Don't worry. So we're going to start by putting our working string onto our base, okay, to start with. And there's so many ways to start it, but I'm going to show you the one that I find easier and that I love to do. Remember to keep your working string folded in half. Make sure your ends are even when you do this. So I'm making sure that my ends on my working string are even, and I have it folded in half. Okay, folded in half. And then you're going to see this little loop right here. This little loop is going to be what we use to make sure that we connect this working to the base. Okay. So now you're going to grab your folded in half piece of cord, and we're going to go, this is the base, we're going to go under, okay, under the base, and you're going to grab this loop on this side. So do you see how it's under? And you are going to now twist as if you're turning a key to that away from you. You're going to twist it. And do you see how it forms that X right there? Now what you're going to do is you're going to go this down here, this one down here. You're going to pull it through this loop that you have on your left side. So you're going to pull the bottom one and you're going to pull it through. When you pull it through, make sure that you're pulling it all the way through. Okay? And that is your first, absolute first knot that we're going to work with. Okay? So I also want to teach you what it looks like. Okay? What your knot is going to look like. You see that ridge right there? That little bump right there in that left side? This is what you need to study really well. Look at the shape of that knot. Look at what your knot looks like. It has that little ridge or little bump right there. That's what it should look like. There shouldn't be one on the other side. It should be on that side. Or if you did it the opposite way, if you put it on the left to right, doesn't matter which side, it will be on the opposite. Okay? Can you see that? This is really important for you to see the shape of that knot. So make sure that you stop and look at what you're doing if you're following along with this tutorial, that this is the actual way your knot looks. Okay, so I'm going to pause here so that you can check to make sure that that is what your knot looks like. This is something so important, you guys, because this will help you determine where you are at with your knotting and how, if your first knot is done correctly. Okay, very well. All right, so now we can keep going. Okay, so now that we have put our first knot here, we're going to now continue. You are going to make your first square knot. And this is, like I said, a knot that is going to be used in almost all of your macrame designs. Even if you're doing just the slider on it, those are the knots we're going to learn. So look at the knot. This is what we're going to learn. So this is what makes a square knot. So if you looked at where your little bump is or your little ridge is at, that is where we're going to start. Okay, we're going to start right on that side. So for us, that little bump is on the left. Now if you put your string to start with from the opposite side, then it should be on this side. So look at where your bump is, and we're going to start the basic macrame knot. You're going to go and take your left strand and you're going to put it on top of your base. You're going to take your working left strand and you're going to put it on your base string. You're going to put it right on top. Okay, so if you lay it right on there, that's where it's going to go. All right, so now your left one needs to go over this one. Okay, so this one that you have on this side, which is this one that you have on top, this one on the right needs to go on top of it. So you're going to put this one on top. So you're going to bring it like this. So if you can see, you can either say it's like a 4 or a backwards P. Okay? You see that? That's what you need to look at. Remember, this left one is on top of the base, and then this one has to be on top of that one left cord that is crossed on that side. And then you're going to take this right one, and you're going to go underneath the base one. And now you're going to bring it underneath and up this loop. Okay? And you're going to now, very important, your tension. Make sure that your knot over here is not twisting. And you're going to move it up, move it up, move it up, all the way up. And this is now that one first knot there. So now look, do you see that? Every 2 knots that you do, every 2 full knots that you do, you're going to end up with a little shape like this that's going to look like a little V with a little knot there. Okay? So right there, that little bump right there. So remember when the bump was on this side? So now it's on this side because we switched sides. Okay? So make sure that you now look at this knot and look at what it looks like, because this is your square knot. So now that we did our first knot, we are ready to continue to create the rest of our knots. From here on, it's going to be repetition of the last step that we did. The bump on the side is going to indicate where we start. Okay? Always look for that little bump. If your knots, 2 of those knots will make this one like this. Okay? So when you are doing a bracelet, make sure that you work in sets of 2 knots to make one of these square knots like this. So if you wanted to add, let's say 4 of them before starting maybe putting beads on it, you're going to count 2, you know, because it's 2 that make up this one knot right there. For instance, we're going to do our third knot. This was going to be our third knot because we did the beginning knot and we did this second knot. So now our third knot, you go the opposite direction. You take this side, you make it go on top of your base, top base, right there. And you take this other side and you're going to go put it on top of that string. And then this one that you put on top of that one, you're going to come and put it under your base, like this, under, and then you're going to pull it up through this one here. All right. And now you're going to move it up. Okay. Do you see how the direction changed? Now your edge is on this side. On this side. Every time you start, you're going to start on the side where there's like the little ridge. Okay? So now we're going to go the opposite direction. On top of the base, then on top of this one that you just crossed on top, right? This one has to be on top over here. Then you bring it underneath and bring it through this loop up through this loop, and you're going to make your fourth one, and that's going to complete. So you see how now those have, there's right there and right there. See those right there? And now you're going to continue. You do the opposite. So if your phone rings, if someone calls you, if someone says, you know, interrupts you, your children, your husband, whoever, your dog, whatever, you can come back to it and you can look for that little ridge that's going to be your indicator or your kind of like your mark of where you are going to start. So in this case, because it's on my right side, it's going to be there. So I'm going to start it here again, go like this on top. Then we're going to cross this one over here. And we are going to then come up through this side and we're going to continue. Okay, and that is your macrame. So do you see how those make to here to here? Do you see? So that's what you would need to know. How this one will then be your left, go back and forth, go back and forth. Okay. All right, so now that you know how to do your macrame knot, what we're going to do is you're going to work the same pattern going back and forth, and we're going to get to the desired length. Now, I'm going to tell you what the desired length, how you can determine that. Go ahead and do a couple of knots. Do about half of, you know, like a couple of more, and then we're going to go into the sizing. So for this here, once you know how to do this, you know, knot, once you start knowing how to do this, we are now want to talk about the actual making of the bracelet and how far you're going to go, how you know long you're going to make your design. And when I say design, I refer to the design as this part right here. Anything that has the knotting, design, beads, whatever, this is what we're going to determine how long to make it. Okay, now that is going to depend on what size you want to make your bracelet in. Now, most of the bracelets have, for macrame, they do have, as you can see, the same knot over here at the slider. They are adjustable. Okay, so any size can be worn. But there is, for example, like this one. Some people may not like that extension to be so wide open. Okay, so if I take my bracelet off here, you can see that this bracelet is adjustable. So the size of this bracelet, anyone from, this is a 6.25 all the way closed, okay? 6.25 all the way closed. So because it has the extension on it and the adjuster, it will expand up to, even with some length hanging, you know, down, it will expand up to 9.25 or almost 9.5. Okay, that's how anyone can wear it. But not a lot of people like all of this space here. Okay, so I like to make them more to where when it's closed on the person, that there's more design coming all the way through here. Okay, so how you're going to determine that is you want to make sure if you're making these in general so that anyone can wear them, I recommend that you work your design up to 6.5, and then the adjuster that we're going to add at the end to make it no more than 1/2 inch. Now, 1/2 inch gives you approximately a little less than this, but kind of looks like this. All right, so that's going to add length. So you have to determine that the knotting, and if you add beads and the adjuster, are all going to be part of your length. So the design that you create from here to here, I would do 6.5 inches. With a 1/2 inch adjuster gives you a 7-inch bracelet when it's completely closed. But if you leave the length out here, you can determine how much you want to put on your bracelet. Some people do 2 inches, some people do 1.5. If they don't like it to extend too long, or if they like it to extend longer, like they like the hanging beads, then you are going to make sure that you create the adjuster to the size that you want, and we'll go over that when we do the adjuster. So 6.5 inches from here with your design. Right now we are focusing on knotting, so you would work your knotting all the way till you do the 6.5 inches, and you would do that by measuring. When you measure your macrame, you want to measure from where you started knotting all the way. So my design is going to end up around here. That is going to be 6.5. Okay, my design is going to end up around there. So if you are putting a bead or putting beads of focal, okay, so for instance, this one that you have here, good morning, you have to determine how big your focal bead is and the size of it, okay? So if you look at this bracelet, you would have to measure the centerpiece if you're doing a focal bead. All right, so focal bead, this one is about, let's see, like about one design from here to here, a little less than 1/2 inch. Okay, so around that. So that means that 1/2 inch. So what does it mean if I want 6 inches and a half design? What does that mean if I have a 1/2 inch centerpiece? What's that going to happen? What's going to happen? I am going to need to do what? I'm going to need to split this, subtract the size of your focal bead, and then subtract from it, and then what's left, I'm going to divide by 2. So I want 6.5 total length. So what's going to happen is you're going to be doing 3 inches here, 1/2 inch here, and then 3 inches on this side to make a full 6.5 inch design. If you're making these for bigger size wrist, then you have to make sure that you can do 6.5 design, 7, 7.5. But remember, the 1/2 inch that you are going to add is going to add length. But I want my design to be 6.5. 6.5 total. So you would do 3 inches, 1/2 inch with the focal, and then the other 3 inches. Okay? So I'm going to continue on my bracelet here. I'm going to work 3 inches. So let's work 3 inches together here, and then I'll go ahead and add a center bead where I will teach you how to add beads. So we're going to add a little bead there to make this more exciting. So work with this as long if you're following the tutorial, go ahead and work this for 3 inches, and then we'll do your focal bead around 1/2 inch if you have one. If you have a specific focal bead you want to use, make sure you measure it, and then you deduct that off of the 6.5. All right, so after you have your 3 inches, you've already completed this part. So now I'm going to teach you how you can add your focal bead. So if you have your focal bead ready, I'm going to use a mantra bead to add to this one here that I'm doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you. So right now I'm going to be pinning the video where I teach how to make this. So this is going to be included in this tutorial. So here you can watch it. And as soon as you watch that one, then we're going to continue with doing the focal bead. Okay, so now you're going to see the tutorial on how to do this one, and then we'll come back to do the focal bead. Hello everyone, my name is Zuli, and I am going to demonstrate how I make my needle on my nylon cord. Now for this demonstration I'm using 0.8 millimeter nylon cord, the one I use for macrame bracelets, and I am going to use a lighter. I use a torch style, but you can use any lighter that you have. Just be careful, okay? Want to be very careful not to burn our fingers. I normally don't burn it from here. I don't like that because that requires for me to kind of hold it, and I have really sensitive finger tip right here. So I like to burn it like right in the middle, and you want to keep it like around that length. Okay. And when I turn on my flame, I want it to be right in here. I'm not going to go into it, kind of touching it a little bit. And once it starts bending right there, I'm going to pull. See? I didn't really touch it. It was very close. So it kind of melts the cord. And then once you see it bend down, you want to grab it and you want to pull. So that way I kept my finger from getting burned, which is a good thing. And then all you do is you come in here and you do that. Okay, and that's how I do my needles on my nylon cord. I hope this helps, and it's a useful tip for you. If you like it, please go ahead and share it with someone you know. Thank you. Okay, once you watch that, now that you watched the video, you watched it, and look and see how you can do your needle. Now that you have your needle done, we're going to go ahead and put your focal bead. The one that's going to go in the center of this particular so this is what you do. You go ahead and put it on, and this is where it's gonna be. So right now, you guys are learning how to do beads with your macrame, okay, along with your macrame. So this is the exciting part. That means that now you're going to be able to do designs like this, knowing how to put your beads and how to do your knots, because there's here, as you can see, there's knots in between these beads to create beautiful designs. So this is how you would put a bead on your macrame design, to combine the knotting along with the bead and to continue on the other side. So since we did 3 inches on this side, my focal bead adds about 1/2 inch. Then I will continue to do 3 inches on this side to complete my full design of this, your first macrame bracelet. So you need to be very proud if you've watched the tutorial this far that you have done this, and I'm very proud of you. I'm so happy. So let's continue. Let me show you what to do to capture your focal bead. So once you have your focal bead, the rule still applies about your ridge. You want to check where your ridge is at. Okay, you see that right there, the little bump? You still want to concentrate on that. That is going to be an important thing because we're going to wrap around. So you see how your bead's on here? The base keeps the bead in place. And now you're going to bring your left one on top. You're going to do the same knots just around the bead. So the bead over here, then you're going to do your normal knot that you've learned so far. And you're going to do your square knot. You're going to do your first one. And this one's going to secure your bead in place. Do you see that? How it frames it and it secures it. But now the ridge is on this side. But this is how it's going to look. Look at it. The ridge is on this side. Oh, sorry. I almost knocked my phone off. So see right here, that is the ridge now. So now you're going to do your second knot. And this will fully complete. So for those that want to continue to do that design, we're going to continue the same knotting. But I want to take a little stop here and tell you that this is where here I'm going to show you an example of what adding another bead and how you're going to do it. I always recommend you can do as many knots, but as long as you do them in pairs of 2s. Do you see the first knot was to capture the bead and the second one was to secure it, but it was 2 knots in itself. So now I'm going to add another bead. This is for demonstration purposes so that you can see how you can continue and adding a different design, and you can start that way your next bracelet. So you would add your second bead, and that would be, you determine how many knots you want to do in between each of those sections. So you would do the same. Remember, you find where the ridge is. That little bump tells me that I start with the left side here. So I'm going to go here and do another one. I'm going to put this one on top and do my regular knot. Same way. The same exact way. And then I'm going to do my second one, which is going to be where this ridge is. Okay. And it's going to secure that bead for me. Okay. Do you see how pretty that looks? This is how you capture beads with your macrame. What you learned today, macrame knots. See? How beautiful that looks. So now you can continue. I'm going to be removing this bead so that I can continue to finish off the bracelet as we first wanted to do it. But I wanted to show you here on the tutorial how you can actually now include other beads and create your design. If you're creating a design on your bracelet that will require beads like this one, you just have to make sure that you start out with at least 6 knots before you start adding your beads. That gives you more of a secure beginning and a end as well. Okay, so start here and you would make about 6, or it's up to you how many knots you want to make, and then count it as part of your whole design. So then you would start working a bead, the 2 knots, bead, 2 knots, bead, 2 knots, until you get to your design length. So you all want to keep in mind that the beginning counts as part of your length, and so does the end and your adjuster, like we've already talked about. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you're going to continue to work on the rest of your knotting. To complete this, I will return when we have reached our 3 inches on this side, so then we can continue with the adjuster. Okay, so now that we have reached your full 6.5 inches of your bracelet, you have to stop and congratulate yourself, because you just officially have finished your very first bracelet macrame design, basic square knot. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to finish your bracelet. We're going to go ahead and we are going to now cut these extra strings here. You have to be very careful, because when you cut them, you can take this off of your board. I'm going to take this off of the board for now. And I'm going to show you around where you should cut. If you are your first time working with your light device, it's really hard sometimes to get it where it's going to burn properly. So I want to make sure that you don't cut it too close, but cut it like leaving about that much off of the end. Okay, what's going to happen is, by cutting it now, for this demonstration for our TikTok friends, I'm not able to cut it in front of you, but I'm going to cut it off camera. But I will show you how much I left on. So I left about that much on. Okay, I'm going to do the same to the other side. And if you're just beginning, please do a little more or longer, okay? You're going to make sure that you pull this tail here away from where you are going to melt this side. When you have your lighter device, we are going to pretend this is my lighter device. It's just the control. So right here, when you make sure you cinch this, you're going to get it really close, but not touching it. Close enough so that it can start melting, okay? Because you don't want to burn your nylon cord and then you actually dissolve it and your whole work is completely done if that happens, okay? So we want to be careful. We want to hold it away, especially this one. You don't want to get to that one. So we're going to, if you're going to do the light part of it, you need to come around like this so it doesn't actually touch it. Okay, we don't want to catch it on light it up, okay? So this is what I'm doing off screen. Very, 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 very close, but not where it's going to catch. And once I see that it melts, so I saw that it melted, and I went ahead and pushed it down. So it creates this little like head pin. Do you see that? Right there. Right there. That was that end. So we're going to do the same to the other end. Taking away this little tail. Take it away. Getting close, but not where it's going to burn, like it just did a little bit. So when you melt it like this, and I'm glad this happened. I didn't do it on purpose, but look at what happens. I caught it on with the light and it made it dark. So perfect example of why not to keep it very close. You want to just melt it so that it's like this. Okay? But that way it seals it and it doesn't go away. I recommend, if you feel like this is not going to be okay, you can do a little bit of the glue. Okay? You can use a little bit of glue. But I wouldn't put too much, because then once the glue dries, it kind of scratches. So try and practice burning the ends like this. Okay, so there's the end of your design. So now with what is over here, we are going to create the adjuster. The adjuster is this little thing right here that is going to help you open your bracelet and close your bracelet. Okay, so it helps us make our bracelet. We can put on our bracelet and we can close it. Okay, the adjuster. That's what these are. Really, really pretty. So this is what we're going to do in the next part of the tutorial. Okay, so in this section of the tutorial, we're going to learn how to make the adjuster. Now for the adjuster, remember, we're going to do 1/2 inch. That is going to add length to your bracelet. Very important when you're making one of these bracelets, because that way you know that it's going to make the bracelet bigger. So we did a 6.5 inch design, 6.5, and I want to add only about 1/2 inch of an adjuster, because I don't want my bracelet to be more than 7 inches once it's closed. Okay, if it goes over, it's okay, but I don't want it to be too much. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take your ends. Don't cut anything off your ends, and you will go ahead and make sure that on the ends here, this, you're going to hold it as if you're putting it around your wrist, like this. All right, and then you are going to make your strings go like this, next to each other, side by side. Okay, side by side. And you're going to put it back on your board. I use the end part of my board, so I'm going to put it here. If you're putting it on your table, make sure that it's not twisted, that it's flat. Okay, so if you put it on a table, make sure that when you tape it down, that your strands are facing this way. The only thing with that is that if you put it on a table, you might end up with the slider on this side, but you can twist it, but it's going to end up on this side. All right, so if you find something that you can use, you can even use your bracelet board here, or your holder, and then you would just tape it and then tape it, but make sure you put something to lift it so you can use your adjuster. Okay, so you can use that end as well. Get creative with where you put it. I like to use my board, so we're going to use my board here, and you're going to clip it, making sure that these are side by side like this, and as close as possible. And I'm going to make sure they don't overlap. And that's where I clip. Right there. Like this. And then what I like to do, I can get another thing here, or I can get my other board, but if I use this, I can clip this here with my other clip. So it kind of extends it for me. You see that? Okay. Clipping it to something like this helps. So that way I can work my knots in here. Okay. So now what we're going to do is you're going to grab your string. With this, you don't need a lot of it, because you're not doing a lot of the knotting. So I'm just cutting off, let's see. I'm going to tell you approximately how much I cut off. I cut off, and if you have some from, if this ends are really long and you have a lot left over, just make sure you don't cut it too short. So this one is about 10 inches or so. And we're going to start the same way. Remember how we started our knot? You're just going to do the same thing as we did at the beginning. So if you want to remember how we did these, you can go back to the beginning to look at it more in detail. But we're going to do the same. We're going to go under. We're going to twist this. We're going to create that little X, and we're going to put the bottom thread through the loop to do our first knot. That's going to be our first knot right there. That gives me that ridge there, and I'm just going to continue to do knots until I get to about 1/2 inch long. Make sure you're passing it through the same way you did your knots on your actual bracelet. Okay, bring them together, and you're going to continue making the knots until you reach your desired length on your adjustable slider. The same thing, the same knotting technique that you used to do your actual bracelet is the same thing you do on a slider. So keep going until you reach your 1/2 inch slider, and I'll let you know how you can finish the ends. All right, so now that you have your adjustable slider complete, we did the 1/2 inch, and we went ahead and burned off the ends like we did when we finished the bracelet. Okay, so this is what your adjustable slider looks like now. This will help your bracelet close and open up. When you're doing your adjustable slider, you want to make sure that your adjustable slider is tight enough to hold it and it's not loose, because what happens is with time and overusing the bracelet, it will come loose a little bit. So if you're struggling to make it slide easy, don't worry about it. That's what it's supposed to be. That's a good thing, because then what's going to happen is with time, it's not going to become super loose where it's going to like open up on you or your customer. So you want to make sure that the adjuster is tight enough to hold the tension, and then you have to kind of, you hear that it kind of like struggles to open. That's okay. That's what we want. Now, determining how much of this you're going to leave. Okay, how much? Now, this should be around 7 inches, maybe a little more, when it's completely closed, if we did it right. So completely closed, right all the way, it's right on 7 inches. You see that? So this bracelet, when it's complete, you now are able to wear it if you have a wrist size of even a 6.75, especially if you don't want them too loose, completely closed, but it can extend as far as you want it to extend. When it extends, there is going to be a gap. Your string's going to look, but that's okay because this bracelet, anyone with a smaller size wrist can use it, or a larger wrist. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I usually leave about, I'm going to put it down. This is how I'm going to determine, and this is how you're going to as well. So how many inches do you want it to expand to without it being too overly like big and not have a lot of this hanging? Because if you do a longer extension, what's going to happen is the people that are going to wear it almost closed, they're going to have something that like hangs up to here if you're going to have it extend too much. Those are uncomfortable. For me, at least, I don't like how much they hang over. So do you see this one here? This is a very long extension to it. So someone with a size 6.5 can wear this completely closed. But my hand, okay, as I extend it, put it on, when I close this, where it's comfortable for me, there's a gap, but it still looks pretty. It's still a little loose, okay? So this expands quite a bit. So do you see how this one on me is not a lot hanging? But if it's a smaller wrist, it's going to hang a lot. So you want to decide how you want your bracelet to look. If you want that, if you don't mind that long string. I like when it hangs around that length right there. So always make sure that when it's closed, you decide, I usually do like about 1.5 to 2 inches. 1.5 or 2. I mostly like 1.5 inches. Okay. So just about 1.5 inches is what I do. And that means that when it's done, including my bead, it's going to be about 1.5 inches long. Okay, 1.5 inches is what I do and I recommend, but you can do it longer, it's okay. You also want to make sure that on the other end of your string, one should already have a needle, like we did earlier. You're going to add the second needle, okay? You're going to create your needle from your nylon cord, like we did earlier in the video. Here is where you're going to add your end pieces. What you want to add at the end so that it can have, you know, decoration. You don't have to add a bead. I like that extra weight on it. I really do. So I recommend that you do, but you don't have to. It's up to you. Okay. And I'm going to put some gold ones there. These are just some gold beads. They are stainless steel. And I would like those because I want them to match to the front of my focal. So you decide which ones you want to do. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to put your bead, your end bead. And the end beads can be 6 mm, 4 mm, 8 mm. I don't recommend 10, but 6 is what I like to use the most. 6 look really pretty, or smaller, but it's your personal choice. Okay, whatever you want to do, it's a personal choice. So we're going to put these both on each of the ends. Okay, once you kind of eyeball where your 1.5 inches is, now we're going to do the knotting of this, and so we can get it right on the point, okay? Right where we want the bead. I'm going to teach you how to do that, okay? So in the next section, I will teach you how to do this. So once you have added your end beads here, we're going to make sure that the beads are all, both of them are going to be in the same, around the same area, okay? So that it can be even when it hangs off the bracelet. So I'm going to mark with my finger, okay, my fingernail, pinching it. I'm going to hold it to where I want the bottom of that bead to be. So this is about the length that I want, and I want it to look like this when it's done. So I'm going to hold it here. I'm going to pull the bead away from where I'm marking it, and then I'm going to mark it with my other hand. Okay, and now I'm going to do an overhand knot. There has to be enough. That's why I love doing that amount of string, so that I can have enough to do an overhand knot going like this over the fingers, and then pulling it, this little thing through here. We're going to do the other one too, so like that. And now taking my fingers, I am going to roll. As I close, I'm pulling the cord, I'm closing, and right where you see, right there, because I was holding it right there, I'm going to go up to that point, and I'm going to go there, 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 until I close it right where it is. There's your knot, okay? There's your knot right there. So now your bead is right there. You're going to make sure that it's tight enough. You pull on it and you do this. Okay, we're going to do the same with the other one. So the same thing, we're going to eyeball it, right? We're going to look at it. It doesn't have to be so precise, you know, for you. You don't have to get the measuring tape. It's just, you're going to see where it kind of looks too long or kind of looks, you know, short. You're going to see that. It's a matter of you looking at it. That's what this is all about. So now I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to move this until it kind of lands to where about the same area. Okay? So right about there, I have it there. I'm already holding it, pinching it, right? Pinched. The bead's over here, it's safe. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to wrap around. Then we're going to put, when you do an overhand knot, you're just going to put it over your fingers. Come back to the same area. And then you're going to put this loop through, down. Okay? So that's going to be our knot. Then don't pull it, because if you pull it, your knot's going to end up over here. So what we're going to do is I call it the chasing. We're going to chase it to its spot. So I'm going to hold it here, and I'm going to put these fingers, and I'm just going to roll, push, push, push. So get to your place, stay in your lane, go there where you belong, shoot, shoot. And it's going to go right to my mark, right there. I now can tighten it. If you start pulling, your knot's going to end up way over here. So you want to roll. So it's just this. So that when you put these down and you look at it, they're pretty much in the same spot. Okay? Same spot. You're going to do the same thing you did to the ends. This time you're going to hold your bead like this. You're going to cut. right there. You're going to cut that much. You're going to get your lighting device, and you are going to get it as close as you can, and then you're going to flatten down. So that way, let me just cut this little piece here. So that way it seals it and it's pushed down this way. Okay? Don't get into the knot because then you will undo your knot. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay? Make sure you're holding that bead here. If you're using an acrylic bead, a plastic bead, a resin bead, a bead that can melt, that can singe, whatever material, a wooden bead, make sure that you're not getting that that flame close to it. Okay? It's really important. And also your fingers. Make sure you don't get your fingers. That's really, really uncomfortable when that happens. Okay? And then you just flatten it. So it makes it like a little boop, pin. And that is how you do your ends on your macrame ending of your bracelet. Okay? So this is how you complete a full macrame bracelet. So if you've gotten to this point, you have completed your first macrame bracelet, and I am so, so proud of you. For next week's class, we are going to go more into different designs of the knots so that you can create other things. If you're watching this and you want to practice this, then go ahead, and if you are on TikTok, you want to make sure that you connect with us there. You can find us as Zulibea Boutique, and we have a great community that will welcome you. And if you are interested in knowing more, we do have the second class. This is a 4-class course. So the next one is going to be added next week. For our TikTok friends, it's going to be every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time live on our TikTok stream. Okay?